most people. I'm just. Let me just start recording.
Yeah, start recording. Start recording.
Okay.
Is it
I
recording?
am. It is recorded, mate. There's little lines going up and down.
Oh, it's good.
That's good.
And mine's recording too.
Do we all have alcohol now? It's okay.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I actually about 2:30 realised I hadn't got alcohol and drove up. There's this seedy little barbecue place up the road where they do the meats from animals that most people haven't heard of and put them in, like in England, Raz, it would be a kebab, you know what I'm saying? An elephant, elephant's leg carved off. And but they sell beer, and she went to put it in a brown paper bag, and I was about to say, no, it doesn't matter. And then I thought, oh no, because in America, as you probably know, you can only drink alcohol in public if it's in a brown paper bag.
I didn't know that.
So she obviously thought I was going to drink it on the way home, and I needed a brown paper bag to cover it up.
Oh yeah, Tim Brownson, the drunk coach. Oh yeah, of course.
the alcoholic.
The alcoholic, you know.
It's like a mile away. Like I couldn't get home a mile without it's calling me too much. I need this incredibly strong Miller Lite. I'm such a wuss. I drink Miller Lite and I'm British. That's
it is 3:00 or something where you are, so you're forgiven. It's quite early in the day.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Yeah, but it's only because I've run out of vodka.
Anyway.
Anyway. That's Olivier's way of subtly saying.
It's like shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. Yeah.
That's very subtle. You see that? I have style. I'm French. Actually, we could have done this podcast together, Raz, but you are in Paris. I am in Paris.
Yes, we could have been in the same room.
Yeah, exactly. But we are just like fucking idiots, I guess. We
Talk about yourself, mate. I'm not an idiot.
Yeah. No, not you.
Yeah, he is an idiot.
I am. Actually, we will rename this podcast based on Max. We had a guest, Max Helag, last time. He said you should rename your podcast. What did he say? The old fuck and the idiot. Yeah, that's it. That's the name that we should have.
But I reject being called an idiot.
No,
so we turn that down.
So we keep Raw Voices podcast. Anyway, Raz, welcome to this podcast.
Thank you.
So you told me that you know already what you opt for. You listened to a couple of these podcasts. So
yes.
I'm just amazed that you're still here. But that's
well, I decided to listen to two.
Mm-hmm.
One with Keith Clark.
Oh, Keith!
Because obviously we have Keith in common, but also in contrast, the one with James Altucher, and I was shocked at how different both of you were in each of them. James got maximum respect, a bit of brown nosing throughout. I just thought, Jesus Christ!
Did you notice? Did you notice something?
Hang on, that's really funny because Olivier said to me. I can't remember when it was now, but within the last couple of weeks after one of our podcasts, and he basically said the same thing. He said, I've listened to all, because I haven't listened to any of the podcasts that we've ever done. I haven't listened to any, apart from the one with James Altucher. And the reason I listened to that was because he gave me some advice on writing. I wanted to listen to it because I've got a shit memory. So, and he said, that was just not you in that podcast. He said every other podcast. So I think you picked maybe the two extremes. Keith, who started off, as a client, who's now a friend of mine, is a great guy, is a lovely person, who I can really rib and take the piss.
Yeah, we don't like him at all. At all.
Yeah.
He's an asshole. By the way, Keith, I think he's the only listener of this podcast. So Keith, fuck off. We don't like you.
He's such an asshole.
Yeah, he is an asshole. Yeah. So there's Keith. And then, so I think you probably picked the two greatest, the biggest diver. I don't think I've been respectful for anybody else, have I? Have I been respectful before? I don't think so.
I don't think so, no.
No, I don't think so, because most of the guests are either friends of mine or people that Olivier's brought on that I've done 10 minutes research on just before the program starts.
But they know what they're up for, so that's the main thing.
But
exactly.
It means that he doesn't know you, I think, because maybe he hasn't. But anyway, so Raz, welcome to this podcast. So I know you from Keith. We had this good friend in common, this asshole, as we said. Hello, Keith. Hello.
Total dick.
How are you? Totally dickhead.
Is he still listening? If Keith is listening, please turn off now. We've had enough of you. All right.
And you're a copywriter at the Relentless Movement, I believe. And you just opened a blog, and I think this is why you're here, in December, I think. And your blog is Razwana Wahid, I believe it's your name, basically.
Just my name, yeah.
Just your name. And
it's your name. He's not sure. He's not convinced it's your name.
It's something Olivier made up and I agreed
I'm
to.
an idiot. I'm the idiot.
Something they thought would look good in Scrabble. You know, it's just like, yeah, I'll go with that.
Who are you again?
That is true. I appear in the English dictionary now under R.
Yes.
You are.
Words with friends doesn't require you to be in the English dictionary because sometimes it'll say word not known but acceptable with words with friends. So there you go. That will be great.
Please? Can I finish?
Oh, yes. Sorry, you can finish.
You know, we can, go after this painful intro. So the tagline, I believe, no, it's not the tagline, but I've read one of your Huffington. You had an article on the Huffington Post, I believe, just published. Congratulations for this.
Thank you.
And what you mentioned when you present yourself on this article, you said exploring East-West identity conflict. So I believe this is what, if I can summarize your blog, it's all about that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, and you have, I know you. Because of Keith, we tried to do an experiment with another podcast, which didn't work at all. Just like this one, by the way, doesn't work, but that's fine.
Failure after failure.
Failure after failure.
That's a pattern.
It's a failing podcast. But I know you, and when I discussed with you before, you're very strong. Very full of passion and power. And when I read your blog, you're very vulnerable. There's a lot of emotion behind, because you went through a lot, and I have to say, when I read all this and I say, wow, this is very, very, very heavy stuff. So just to summarize for the listeners, you gone through an arranged marriage. You married basically your cousin. Then you basically went through lots of pain, from my understanding. And finally get a divorce and been able to free yourself and went through your passion. But that's the way that you describe that. It's extremely emotional, painful, and I don't read lots of blogs, but your blog posts, every time that I read them, they are very well written, and I can feel all this conflict that you are talking about. Anyway, that's why you're here, because you're. Okay, so not only the atmosphere just went down, but with heavy stuff.
Like fuck, I have wine.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, can you give us a little bit about this blog post? You said that you just built it very, very quickly in December. It went like in a couple of days, and poof, it was up online. And so what are you trying to achieve with this blog?
So I started thinking about doing something in that area about 4 or 5 years ago, and I never really had an end goal in mind. So the area I'm talking about is there's a lot of people in the UK, in the US, that are, the children of immigrant parents, and their parents emigrated from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka into the West, and they're living, in my generation, are living a very disconnected life from their parents and from the country they were raised in, because they have two very conflicting cultures that they feel like they have to choose one or the other, but they kind of fit in the middle, and there's no middle. And I couldn't really understand what my end game was. Like, am I a coach? I don't want to be a full-time coach. Am I, a therapist? Is it just going to be writing? Will I be a full-time writer? And I couldn't understand what to do. And then I got so sick of thinking about it that I decided to do something about it. And so I had a spare Saturday, settled me in Paris with no friends on that Saturday, and I started writing the copy for this website. And within about 4 hours, I had all my copy done. In the course of 2 days, I had 4 articles written, and then I managed to find a designer who designed and developed the site. So within 4 days, it was up and running, domain up, etc., etc. So it felt like it was something that happened very naturally. It evolved very naturally. And so for me, it was really a case of people like me exist, but we don't really talk about the real issues. We joke about the issues. You see comics on stage joking about how ridiculous our lives are. Movies like East is East really make fun of the stuff that's happening. But under all of that, there are serious issues, like girls being taken to Pakistan at 16 to get married. When I was a kid, I knew girls being taken out of school at 13, 14, taken to Pakistan so they couldn't have an education, and then married and being sent back to England in their 20s with no education, a husband and some children. And that kind of stuff kind of happens, underneath the radar until the police pick up some girl that's been forced into a marriage, and suddenly that becomes front page news. But apart from that, it isn't really discussed. So I guess, I wanted to create a space where that sort of, those subjects could be discussed, and using myself as the example, I guess, because I've been through a lot of stuff that most people are afraid to talk about.
Can you, and I don't want baby to go if it's too painful here, but can you tell a little bit of this story, what happened to you? So you said your parents were Pakistani, I believe, yeah, and you've been born in England. So you have this born in England, but from this Pakistani culture. So what happened to you? What happened? If you can summarize a little bit this.
So I guess that the basics of it are, or the highlights are that. So my dad died of cancer when I was 19, and he was 47, so he was really young, and he wanted to be buried in Pakistan. And so my mum, my brother, and I, took his body to Pakistan, and we'd arranged his funeral, etc. And then a couple of days after he was buried, my mum and my brother and I were sat having dinner, and she turns to us and says, "So I guess now that we're here, two birds and one stone. You two are of marriageable age. We should just arrange your marriages here." And I was kind of, food stuck in my throat, going, "What the fuck's going on?" And my brother just turned to my mum and said, "Well, I'll do whatever you want. I'll always do whatever you want." And I just thought, shit. If he's just said yes, I can't say no, because she's just become a widow. She was really young herself. And so I said yes to it. And the next year was kind of this whirlwind of shopping and, makeup and clothes and jewelry and all this shit that we do to have a wedding. And then I went to Pakistan, I got married, and it didn't really hit me what I'd done until I was sat with my in-laws and my husband next to me, and all these people that I didn't recognize. And my mum wasn't there, my brother wasn't there. I was in Pakistan, and I was just like, shit, this is real. I've actually signed a piece of paper marrying myself to this man who's, my first cousin. And then, I won't go into the other details because it is quite emotional to talk about, but I eventually decided that, I was 20 at the time, and I'd made a decision to marry someone to make my mum happy. I thought that if I did something, I sacrificed myself, I'd make her happy. And that's a lot of stuff that people in my position go through is, if I sacrifice myself, then I'll get some approval from my parents. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And I thought, strategically, if I found someone that I'm married to and I'm happy with, then I struck gold. I'm young. The rest of my life is going to be amazing. But if it doesn't work out, I'm young and I can get out of it. And as it happened, he did some stuff that pissed me off pretty royally. And I decided to get a divorce. And it took me about 4 or 5 months of literally pleading with my family, can I get a divorce? And they couldn't understand why I wanted it, because in their eyes, he was golden balls, and I had no logical reason to divorce him, despite me trying to tell them what happened between us, and they weren't buying it. But anyway, eventually I got divorced, and it was just awful. My family were ripped apart, which is another thing that happens in that community, that families do just split because the two couldn't make it work. So we're all going to just hate each other for years. And and then I moved out a few years later, and the rest is history, I guess.
And now you're okay, fine. Wow.
So a light story to start us off.
Very light. No, it's but that's.
So tell us about the copywriting then.
Olivier picked the interesting stories, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
That
is I came from a generation in England, and I hope you'll forgive me for saying this, Raz, but I came from England where one of the biggest insults you could call somebody was a Paki. Mm-hmm. And and I also came from a generation where that was acceptable. And now I look back on some of the things that we did as kids. So I was born in the early '60s. I hear you say, no, surely not. You must have been. You can't. You definitely can't.
In the '40s, right?
Yeah.
Over 32.
I know. Thank you very much, and you're a wise lady. It was tough. I lived in a fairly. I lived in the middle of Derbyshire, for anybody listening, and in a parochial town where there weren't that many people of any ethnicity other than white, and anybody that was stuck out and was absolutely pilloried. Unless there was some specific reason why they weren't, like they were really funny or really smart or really big and tough or whatever. So did you find growing up in the UK, and I know you're considerably younger than me, and hopefully it's a little bit more progressive, but we still see it now, some of the racism that goes on now, with I don't want to get too heavy into what happened. I put something up on Facebook that said, Britain in the 1940s, keep calm and carry on. Britain in in 2015, lose your values and panic, basically, because of what's happening with terrorism and whatever, instead of just getting on with life. So that was a very, very convoluted question. Did you find that growing up in the UK? Did you find it, or were you sort of protected from that?
Well, I was born in the early 80s, and I was born in Bradford, and Bradford is one of the main cities that people from Pakistan settled in. So where I lived, it was, the mean streets of Manningham, where everyone was basically a Paki. Right. I would say that at the time, about 70% of the population were either of Pakistani or Indian descent. And so we knew each other, we understood each other. And I knew families that had parents come over from Pakistan, and they hadn't spoken English a day in their life. Everybody they spoke to was Pakistani, and so they didn't need to integrate with the culture. And so there was very much a community of Pakistanis and Indians all living together and not needing the wider English white for all intents and purposes world. But I still experienced racism at school when I was looking for a job. It was a lot of, nobody ever called me a Paki. Nobody was ever abusive to me like that. But I remember when I went to get my first job as a student, it was a part-time job in Morrison's, which is a supermarket in England. And
yeah, it's like Kmart.
yeah, there you go. And I was 15, and I remember I sat at the interview, and I'm sure I was wearing a traditional Pakistani outfit. I wasn't wearing a suit. I wasn't wearing trousers or a skirt or whatever. And the woman who was interviewing me was a white English woman. And she said, we have a uniform here at Morrison's. Would you be okay to wear it? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I know I'm not dressed in Western clothing today, but I do understand I have to wear a uniform. And she replied, well, I'm glad you said that, because I really don't like those flappy things you Pakistanis wear on your legs. And I was like, are you shitting me? But it wasn't the very obvious racist abuse, but there was a lot of undercurrent of that, like you are the underclass, you're beneath us, you're not accepted, that kind of thing. And there are still, I hear stories all the time from my friends back in Bradford of the abuse they get. But again, it goes the other way as well. So it's not just from white people to Pakistanis, it's the other way around too. So.
Right. And what about France? You're in France right now. You arrived in France in your 30s. Why the hell are you in France? Jesus Christ,
What's wrong with me?
Yeah, exactly.
You like Maurice Chevalier, don't you? Sorry.
He's part of the 40s, but his references,
We've got about 20 minutes without saying, fuck Keith. Fuck Keith.
It is a theme. The theme of the podcast is
hello, Keith.
Don't let him forget in case he's listening. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Answer that question.
Yeah, I was curious about, do you have today, like in Paris, which is, is it the same here, or is it? Do you have any kind of racist remark or any things like this going on?
So when people look at me, they don't look at me and think that I'm of Pakistani origin in this country. interestingly, people here think I'm either Spanish or Italian because of the way I dress.
Totally.
I was thinking that. I was thinking maybe Syrian. But sorry, that was a really poor taste joke that I would normally ask Olivier to edit out, but when I do any poor taste jokes, he always refuses to. No, but I can get the Spanish and Italian. You've got that Mediterranean kind of look about you.
And because I don't wear a headscarf, I don't wear long dresses and that kind of thing. People assume that I'm European, which I am European, but my origins are not. But interestingly, since the shootings in Paris and that kind of thing, the conversation about ethnicity and being Muslim, of course, as I'm Muslim, comes up. And a lot of my French friends, I find, are more interested in how I've lived my life, because they're interested generally in Muslims, because are they all terrorists is a question I get asked a lot.
I think a bigger, more important question is, do they all drink wine? My brother-in-law is Muslim. I've got to tell you a story, and I know Olivia will tell me if she's up. So we'd lived here about 2 or 3 years. I went into Lens Crafters to get some glasses fitted, and the guy, it was really nice. He was really friendly, and he said, and they get a lot of tourists going in to buy glasses at the time because the exchange rate was so favourable from the pound to against the dollar. So people would buy glasses when they're over there, and he obviously didn't realise I lived in the US. He said, I hear you've got a lot of problems over there, and I said, what, in Windermere? And he said, oh no, in England. I mean, I said, what do you mean? He said, with Muslims, have you got a lot of problems with Muslims over there? And I said, well, my brother-in-law's a Muslim and I don't have any problems with him. So, and he said, oh no, I didn't mean your brother-in-law. I didn't mean, it's just like the way he backed. Like, it was just my brother-in-law genuinely is Muslim, and because it's from Morocco, and it was just one of those brilliant moments where it's just like he shriveled, and it's just like, what the fuck does that mean? I hear you've got problems with them. There's hundreds of millions of Muslims, and probably it's just tiny fraction of people that want to go. So anyway, you like a glass of wine?
I do. Don't tell my mum. Like, whatever you do.
I won't.
God, she'll kill me.
Don't worry, she's not likely to listen to this podcast
at all. Only Keith.
It's not at 10 o'clock news or anything like that. Yeah.
Only Keith.
It's on Graham Norton that you're on. So.
No, I think a lot of Muslims do drink, but they just don't tell anybody they do. Unlike me, idiot, of course, announcing it online. Because, absolutely. But yes.
Don't worry, Keith Clark won't tell anybody. He's a complete bastard. He won't tell anybody that you drink. And my brother-in-law did as well, and his parents didn't know. Sorry, mate, get in.
But that's an interesting question, because it's all about, and I have... One of my best friends is from Saudi. Look, I'm doing the in-law.
Yeah,
my best friend is in Saudi. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I like Muslims. I have a Muslim friend. I get it.
Exactly. I'm doing exactly the same racist thing. But anyway, it's true. He's in Saudi and he drinks and he's very progressive and he did all his study in London. But he has also not to hide, but it's kind of respect for his parents. So everybody knows, but nobody tells. Something like that. It's as long as it's hidden, it's fine. So what do you think about that? About it's like almost like it's a shame thing, or you need to be, it's not to shame your family. You have to be proud of something. Is it something like this that is going on?
Kind of. I think it comes down to what they don't know doesn't hurt them, because my parents' generation, they left their home country where they were raised when they were really young. My dad was 14 when he was sent to England to work and send money back home.
You say sent? Right.
Sent. Yeah, so, after the Second World War, there was a massive deficit of men in England. Right. And in order to fulfill the needs of the economy, the Queen decided to go to the colonies to ship people in. And so India and Pakistan being a colony, they sent their men from Pakistan to England. So they emigrated, they got their visas, etc., and started working in England. And my dad was, I guess, the second generation of people to go, because his uncle was before him, and then a few years later, my dad. and his cousin and whatever else. And then he married my mum, and then my mum went to England. So my dad was sent to England when he was a kid, but my mum obviously left through choice to a degree.
I think what a lot of people don't realise is that the UK, certain aspects, the health system, the transport system would have collapsed without the influx of people from the colonies, and and not just necessarily Pakistan. And Pakistan wouldn't have been formed then, would it? Would Pakistan?
It was India at the time, yeah.
Because it became then it separated, and but also from the West Indies as well.
Absolutely.
So the British went around fucking colonising all these places and saying, guess what? Hey, you can have a British passport, and that's what we give you for stealing all your wealth and what have you. And then suddenly it's like, oh, by the way, we want to come over there, because there was certainly from the West Indies, there's a lot of people that travelled because they got a Commonwealth passport, and they saw it as a streets pays the gold, so to speak. So it's
as did the Pakistanis. It was the Holy Land. England was just like, you ship as many men as you can, and for example. I guess my dad won't get in trouble now because he's dead, God love him, and so is his uncle. But my dad came over.
Definitely won't get in trouble. Trust me, I've googled that one. He definitely won't get in trouble. Yeah.
But he came over as his uncle's son, not as his nephew, because you wouldn't be able to bring your wider family. You just bring your children and your wife. And so he came over, as did my dad's cousin and a few others. So this uncle had like 20 kids with him when he turned up to England. But it was so easy. It was, and because they were growing up in pretty much poverty, I guess. It was the Holy Land. It was, the streets were paved with gold, and it turns out they weren't. But at the time they believed it. But back to your question, Olivier, on why do Asians, Muslims hide their true selves from their parents? It's because their parents. This is what I believe. I believe that my parents moved from that country to England, and they decided to really stay true to their roots, more so than their families did in Pakistan. So they kind of became more Pakistani in a country that was the complete antithesis of their home culture. And so when you say to your parents, well, I get that you went through all that shit, but I'm now being raised here, you've got to understand that I'm different. I just don't think they'll understand. And when you grow up like me, you pick your battles. You can't argue every single case. And there's some things that I tell my mum openly, and I challenge her to open her mind. And there are other things like the alcohol that I don't tell her because it will make no sense whatsoever. Right. Alcohol's forbidden in Islam completely. Like, you go straight to hell for it. I'll be going to hell for lots of different things. Alcohol's like on the list, right? But
take a ticket. There's a line. Okay.
Exactly.
But both of us will be there as well with Tim, and we'll be there as well. So
Keith will be there.
Keith as well.
Keith will be there because he's a bastard.
Hello, Keith.
I won't know which line to get in. It's like you used to take drugs and you did alcohol and you were...
Okay, Raz, you have actually, you mentioned your dad, and you told me a very actually life lesson here about your dad, because your dad had a dream, he wanted something. Can you, and at the end he couldn't fulfill that, do you remember that? Because I think it's very powerful, and it's again about my favorite subject, it's about death again, but...
beautiful.
I know. So,
I love that we're so uplifting.
I know, but at the end I think we will cheer up, I guess.
We're all on depressing voices.
Yeah.
Yes.
The most depressing podcast ever. Come on. Hello, Keith.
He's a bastard. Stop talking to him.
Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, carry on. Yeah, it's a good question. So
my dad, like I said before, was 14 when he was sent to England. So he, bless him, didn't know his ass from his elbow, really, when he was a kid. And he was told by his dad that his sole purpose in life was to earn money and send money back to them and to support his brothers and his parents in Pakistan. And he worked his ass off to do that. And then I remember when I was a kid growing up, he used to tell me that story of the things that his dad said to him before he left. But he'd also said that I want to retire early. I want to retire at 55, and I want to go back to Pakistan. I have land there that his dad gave to him, and I'm going to build a house, and your mum and I will live there, and your brother and you will be married in England. You can do what you want. And throughout my childhood, he said that a lot. Like, it was something he talked about with his friends. He discussed it with my mum, who didn't want anything to do with it, surprisingly. And he told me and my brother too. And so that was his dream, retiring at 55. And he literally just worked every hour that he could. He was a manual laborer. He never went to school. And he was working in factories his whole life, working ridiculous 12, 13-hour shifts, saving money. So one day he could do this thing. He could build his own house. And it's a great thing of pride for a lot of Pakistani men to build their own house in Pakistan. And then when he was 45, he was diagnosed with cancer. And he still didn't give up that dream, because he was adamant he was going to do it. But then when he got to 47, that's it. He was done. He died. And the thing that really struck me is that he had this dream, but he put a date on it that he couldn't control. And at no point did he ever think that he was going to be sick and lose his life that early. He was convinced, like most of us are, that we're going to grow old to our 70s or 80s, and we're going to have a pension if we decide we're going to have a pension, and we're going to put off our dreams and the life that we want until, we don't need to work, and we can then spend our time having as much fun as we can. And my dad is like the biggest example I have of, fuck it, just do what the hell you want, because you don't know what's coming tomorrow.
Okay, so very uplifting.
It was kind of uplifting at the end, no?
Oh God, you could have told this story better now, just like cheering up. Yeah, go after your dreams. You can do it.
Oh, she did do that. She just did it more subtly for you because you're French.
I know I'm French.
I
didn't get it, man.
I got the message. It's basically, I mean, there's always that balance, Raz, and between living for the moment and and also being sensible about living for the moment, and not being too hedonistic. I mean, I went through a period of taking a lot of ecstasy and party drugs in my, but I couldn't do that now.
I'll go to hell, by the way.
I know I'm going to hell. Come on, I'm on a Disney fast pass to hell right now. I get that, but so there's this, being sensible about it in terms of living for the moment. So for you, it's not about you're drinking the 2 bottles of wine a day, thinking, I'm really enjoying it. That looked like something completely different. Then I just realised that.
I was waiting for you to notice what that looked like.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was just thinking what I was going to do later on tonight. Yeah, I'm gay and not married or whatever, Anyway, so anybody listening to the podcast of this, I've no idea what the fuck we are talking about. But anyway, you don't need to know. The only thing you need to know is Keith Sebastian. So anyway, so there's that balance, for you. So and I admire it, and I think it's an important lesson, and it's a really difficult one to draw the line. Do you not think, to know, when is it? I'm just having fun now, and I'm enjoying my life, and I'm getting on, and what have you. And when am I? Well, I need to be a little bit more sensible, because I'm 53 now with no savings whatsoever. I had a conversation with a client yesterday who got 100 grand in savings and thought he was poverty stricken. I'm going, and I'm like, I ain't got any money saved whatsoever. It's like, should I be worried? And he was like, yeah, you should. I said, well, I don't want to. I don't want to worry about that. I'd rather get on and live life. Not that I may worry the shit out of it in 5 years' time if I can't work or whatever. But so that was long.
I always had a couch for you, in my apartment. Always,
Thank you. Okay. Are you going to ask me about my childhood?
No, not really.
I'll lay down there.
Wait, you don't snore. That's it. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
I don't think I do snore. Not a little bit sometimes, apparently, if I've been drinking. So I'll be snoring tonight then. Anyway, so what do you think about that, Raz? Getting the balance right, basically.
I think it comes down to something you guys understand as coaches, which is it comes down to your values, doesn't it? The client you were talking about, and his 100 grand in savings, and he's still up shit's creek. He probably has values that are around security that are very different to yours. His levels of security are quite different. And I think we all, deep down, we all know when it's time to be sensible and when it's time to take the risk. I think it just takes someone to ask the right questions to push us in whatever direction we need to be pushed in. And the reason why I say that is because when I was looking to leave my job, my biggest fear was money, because I've been bankrupt when I was in my late 20s, and I've had that, the lack of money, or the severe lack of money. And so I know how that feels, and it's the scariest feeling for me. And so leaving my job to start my business was quite a scary thing, and the biggest fear was around money. And I remember speaking to a friend, and he said to me, how much money do you think you should have in your savings? And I said, I think I should have at least 12 months worth of cash, but it doesn't feel like enough. And he asked me, well, what's enough? Put a figure on enough, and then you'll be okay to leave your job, won't you? And that kind of really pushed me, because I thought, well, actually, if I really sit down and think, is 12 months worth of cash enough? Probably not. I probably need 24. But then when does that end? Because it can just carry on forever. And it was a push I needed to understand this value of security and how it felt threatened by the lack of money, and then just take the leap, because I thought, well, fuck it. Worst case scenario, if things go bust in 12 months, I'll just find another job. It's not that difficult. I've done it before.
Exactly. So Raz, you've been in an arranged marriage. You've been through bankruptcy. Have you ever robbed a bank, for fuck's sake? I mean, are you trying to cover off every base of every person we've ever had on the program? Are you by chance a quantum physicist? We did have a quantum
I'm incredibly competitive, so don't push me.
Okay, yeah. You go split an atom in front of us.
So actually, yeah. So you just started your business and actually you can live from this business. You're an entrepreneur, I guess.
That's entrepreneur in
fuck you. That's fine. At this hour,
even Keith could have pronounced that properly.
Don't expect me to sound rational at this hour, in any case. But do you have any advice for people, like hypothetically somebody who is miserable in his job because he works for a big company?
Hypothetically? What's hypothetically?
Fuck you again.
Oh, seriously? He threw his arms back and went, I'm even trying to think of what word that could have been.
Hypothetically, for God's sake.
What?
Okay, forget it. Raz, do you understand?
I think you've got to be living amongst the French to understand that he meant hypothetically.
Exactly.
Oh, hypothetically.
What's the word in French? Hypothétique?
Hippopotamus. It was what he said.
So I'm trying to come with a serious question. Like, any advice for me who are desperate to go out of anyway? So any advice if you want to launch to have a business, right? What would be the best advice that you can get? Because you went through this.
Don't fucking do it, man.
Don't do it. Stay in your fucking day job right now.
Stay in your misery. It's comfortable for a reason. I think anybody that says life's too short is full of shit, because it's not that life's too short. Life isn't short. Life's very fucking long. And just because you leave your job and start a business doesn't mean that's the rest of your life. I would say it depends on, like I said before, your level of risk. For me, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have many people that I'm responsible for. And so leaving a job to start a business was fairly low risk, even though my fear around money was very real. In essence, the risk wasn't that high. For somebody who has kids or has other dependents, is a little bit different. But I think ultimately view it as an experiment, even if it's a 6-month experiment, if you can get a sabbatical from work or do something that's a bit more creative than just leaving a job and starting a business and everything being finite. Experiment with it and see if you like it, because you might not even like it. I think a lot of people, the fear is that it feels very ultimate. If I leave my job, that's it, I can't go back. Well, that's not technically true. So for you, Olivier, if you're thinking of doing that,
not me. Come on, it's not me.
I think it was.
It could be technically true if you were like an executioner in France. And she said if you leave your job, you can't ever go back. Well, there are certain jobs you can't go back to because they don't exist anymore. I'm just pointing that out just in case. It's
possibly the worst joke ever told him.
You've not been listening to many of the podcasts. Holy shit! That was one of the. That's in the top 10.
It's the best one that you had for a month.
Me too. Yeah. but no, I agree. I think I'm going to psychoanalyze Olivier because I know he loves this shit when I do this to him. But he's qualified up to or certified up to the eyeballs. He's got more certifications than I have, and I've been doing it full time for nearly 11 years now. And I'm shit, and I still get away with it and get clients. I took 2 clients on this morning. If I can do it, you can do it. It's just, but I think it's when people get into in trying to be serious for a moment. So I left a job, a 6-figure salary job, so 11 years ago now, and I walked away from it. And I had 2 things that allowed me to do it. Courage wasn't one of them, to be quite honest with you. One was my dad had passed away and left me about £30,000, so $50,000, whatever. And 2, I had a wife that worked who supported me fully because she knew that my job was killing me. And but here's the thing: we have to be sensible about this. We didn't have kids. We had a house with a considerable amount of equity in it. We could sell if we had to get by. And so the moment I made my mind up I was leaving, and I planned to leave my job in August, and I made my mind up in sort of April time, I was gone by the end of May, because once my decision was made, I just couldn't focus on it. And the last month, my performance went from pretty good, top performer, to stratospheric, because I didn't give a fuck. I went to when I left, people were like, "What are you doing?" I tripled my sales target in the first 3 weeks of a 3-month campaign. But the point of the matter is we have to be sensible. It's easy for me to say to you, you'd be a good. I think you'd be a very good life coach because you're very understanding, you're very empathetic, and I think that's an important thing. You're good at question asking. You're a very good listener. You got all the skills. And I'm being absolutely honest about it now. So I think you make a very good life coach. But it's not easy to get clients, and if you've got kids and you've got a wife to support, to say to somebody, and Raz, you basically, alluded to this or said this, just to walk away from that job. I recognise how lucky I was to have that support system in place, plus some financial support as well, without much risk. And I think I really get fucked off by these bloggers that say, do what you love and the money will follow.
Yeah,
fuck that shit. Yeah. Go and stand at 7 o'clock on a local golf course and watch all those people driving off into the woods, as they slice the ball or hook the ball, and say, oh, if you're good at something that you don't like, imagine how good you would be at something you do like. It's bullshit. It doesn't work like that. I was very, very good at sales, and I hated it. So I think you're fucked. Basically, is what I'm trying to.
There's no hope, man. There's no hope. That's it.
Thank you for this.
The hope is to transition slowly. I think. I think that's what Raz was saying with it. Yeah, I think it's the bit by bit, grab a client in there and do it on the side.
Which is what I did. I started my business about 6 months before I left the job, and I had 2 months where I could pay my bills quite comfortably with the clients that I had before I left my job. So it was hard work because I literally had no life. I didn't see my friends at all for 6 full months, but whatever, it was worth it. But that doesn't mean that just because I have 2 good months, I'm going to have a great business. It has been a struggle. Sometimes it has been a struggle. But like you, Tim, I had some savings. I had quite a high-paying job, and I was able to minimize my expenses and save as much as possible so that when I left, I didn't have to worry about money for the first 12 months. And it sounds like a luxury, but I worked my ass off to do that. So it's the preparation. It's kind of understanding, well, what's my biggest fear? My biggest fear was money, and I had to cover that off. But then take a bit of a risk and think, okay, 12 months of savings is enough. The rest I'm going to have to make up as I go along, and that's pretty much what I'm doing. But your fears could be different.
Yeah, I think it's interesting the word in there where he says I didn't have to worry about money, because we never have to. We've been through a tough time with my mother-in-law dying and my wife going backwards and forwards because she had pancreatic cancer, and it's cost us. It's wiped out all the money we got put aside to pay my tax bill, for example. Now I could now be worrying about that, thinking how am I going to pay it. But I won't allow myself to worry about things like that. I'd rather, I'd rather worry about whether Olivier is going to ask an interesting question and whether Keith's still a bastard or not. That's what they're the things that keep me awake at night.
And he isn't here to tell us.
No, he isn't.
You know what? We should invite him
sure.
if he's online, just for the sake of it. Just like if he's online. But I don't think
do that.
I can't.
But it's later. It's
No,
he's not online, unfortunately.
Oh shit! We could have pinged him now and to see who is this Keith. If
we could have brought him in, and people would be
Anyway,
but no, seriously, I think we can. It's a cliche to say there's two things you can worry about: things that you can control and things that you can't. If you can control them, why worry about it? Just control it. If you can't control it, why worry about it? Because you can't control it. And I try, and I'm not saying I am a bit of a worrier actually. I just tend not to worry about money. I tend to worry about other things. I worry about I worry about this podcast.
Really? Seriously?
No, not
no,
seriously.
Of course not.
No, not seriously. No, I worry about hitting deadlines. I worry about letting people down. It really bugs me. I sometimes worry about that I can't keep my mouth shut and I'll say something and upset somebody. So I actually hate upsetting people. Yeah, I'm just a fucking genius. There's this dichotomy going on. Like, you've got this great skill. It goes back to saying, if you love something, you'll be great at it. I actually don't love upsetting people, but I am fucking brilliant at doing it. I'm not trying to be arrogant now, but I'm pretty good at it.
Are you upset right now, Raz, because you cannot shut up right now?
No,
I'm just wondering how you can monetize this skill of upsetting people. There must be a business in there somewhere, Tim.
He's a life coach. Come on, that's it.
It's called right-wing radio. But then I'd have to adopt right-wing tactics. I think you may not even remember this, and I'm going to have to bring this up because I thought I actually upset you one time because the first ever correspondence we had. Do you remember it? First ever email you sent.
How can I forget?
We need the story. We need the story now. Okay,
go on.
Go on, Tim. You tell the story. I want to hear your side of it, actually.
Raz sent me this email that says, Tim, I can't remember something about it. I'd like to have a crack at your copywriting, and you can get me in a good mood or a bad mood, and sometimes if I'm in a bad mood, I'm quite cynical or critical or whatever, and sometimes and I responded with, I don't want anybody, it tells me they want to have a crack at my copywriting, to do my copywriting. I want somebody to send me a letter that shows me their copywriting skill or something like that. I can't remember what I said like that.
You were an asshole.
Yeah, I was an asshole.
But my pitch wasn't brilliant either, so I did learn something.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You're such an idiot as well, Raz. Oh, come on.
But I still think there was a point to it. I could have explained it a little bit more clearly, saying, okay, you're a copywriter, so your copywriting skills want to come out through your emails that you're sending to people as well, because copywriting is expensive, and I've spent several $1,000s in the past on copywriting. And I don't want somebody to just have a crack at it. I want somebody to nail it. I want to say, I can nail your copywriting and deliver business better than you're getting now. And that would be like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm prepared to take a look at something like that. So I said, there isn't one. There isn't really a point. It's just that you always wanted a point. You French, you always wanted a point. Like, it's always got to be
always time wasted with this story.
It's always like. Well, this isn't an Edith Piaf biography where she died at the end and there's a point. And...
Je vois la vie en rose. Anyway, so Raz, what about your story, side of the story? How was it for you? No.
So my side of the story, I was, I think it was this time last year, probably, maybe a bit later, wasn't it? When did you redo your website? Because you were going through the redesign.
No, that was over 18 months ago.
Okay, that's probably when I wrote to you then, because you were in the middle of rewriting your copy and redesigning your site. And I remember I wrote that email, and it was one of a bunch that I wrote to a few different coaches. And I got your reply, and for a while I was like, that bastard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what
I was really pissed. And then actually I reread it and I thought, actually, he's telling me something that I need to hear. Because if my pitch isn't convincing, why the hell would anybody want to be hiring me? And I think I came back to you. I took a stab at it. Took a stab at your copy. And you sent me some fairly positive feedback. So I was pleased to at least get something nice from you on email, Tim.
Yeah, I'm not a complete bastard.
Are we all friends?
Yeah,
now?
yeah, we're all.
And look at us now.
We're all friends.
Even your brother-in-law's Muslim. What can we say?
And my best friend as well.
It's actually my ex-brother-in-law. He had an affair. I'm not kidding either. I'm not kidding.
That's brilliant.
My sister will never listen to this because we haven't spoken to each other for God knows how long. But yeah, no, he had an affair. I got to tell you this great. He was the most laid-back person I have ever met in my life. So my sister-in-law my sister and him were moving house one day, and it was the day of the FA Cup final. So anybody in England knows the FA Cup final is like the Super Bowl. So he was lying on the sofa watching the FA Cup final, and we were packing boxes and moving stuff. We were carrying things out of the house to the point where the house was almost empty apart from the TV. And my sister-in-law was going nuts at him, going, Abdurazak, you've got to help us with this. You've got to. And he was going, I'm just waiting until the end of the game. I'm just waiting. And then my sister-in-law had a full-on panic attack to the point where we had to call an ambulance because we thought she was having a heart attack. She was slumped on the floor, and they gave her the old brown paper bag. That was the first time I'd ever seen anybody have a heart attack. And he was just like, oh, it's just a football game, you know. He was the most laid-back person. So
Okay, very well. So we know a lot about your former brother-in-law. Very good. Raz, anything? What's next for you? What do you want to do? Here, that's a brilliant question that I have now.
Well, the brilliant question has less of a brilliant answer. I don't have any goals or plans or what's happening next. I'm winging it.
Oh, you wing it?
I'm gonna wing it. Fuck plans.
Oh,
if you have plans, you have to work to make them happen. And I'm a little work shy, so
yeah. And here at Raw Voices, we don't like to hear about winging it because we never wing it. We script out every podcast. We know exactly where we're
very professional.
We are. Look at us. Come on. Are you impressed by this?
15 minutes ago, I was driving up the road to get a can of beer. You know, I thought I might look too professional without one.
All in the name of art. No, the reason why I said yes to coming onto this podcast is because I like the fact that it is unstructured, unscripted. I think the other stuff that has, fancy introductions and pre-prepared questions and all that shit, it feels very scripted and it sounds... listeners. Yeah. That's the other side of it. They actually have an audience. Maybe they're not doing something completely wrong, but it feels too scripted, whereas I quite like it. It's like talking to my friends, only...
Well, we are your friends.
You are now.
We are, and I'm glad I got the opportunity to explain that because when Olivier said asking about you, I said, don't think she likes me, mate. To be honest with you, because I sent this email to her, so that's cool. So
you've been carrying that around with you for 18 months. Has it weighed heavy on your shoulders?
Weighed heavily, yeah. It has. If everybody had upset weighed heavily on me, I'd be like Quasimodo, I'll tell you. Bills. Anyway.
So, I think we're coming to the end of this podcast. I think we need to wrap it up. So Raz, any last word, any advice, any swearing words, anything that
any self-promotion?
Oh, yeah, that's true as well.
Yeah, come on.
Can we add a little Keith's an asshole?
Keith we all know Keith. That goes without saying. Keith's a complete bastard.
I think we need to put now a link on the voice to his website.
We ought to really so people know who this arsehole Keith is. Yeah. I could say Keith's a really nice guy and I really like him, but that would ruin the whole theme of the show, so we won't say that.
Let's not be honest.
Actually, that would be the name of the show, by the way. Keith is an arsehole, right?
That's an arsehole. Okay. He'd love it. He got the most promotion out of all of us.
Yeah, that's true.
The mysterious Keith.
Anyway, so Raz, any promotion, words of advice, wisdom, things that you want to say to wrap this up?
I would say anybody who is suffering from an identity conflict. I write all about it at razwanawahid.com, and they can check it all out there.
Cool.
We'll put a link into that. Raz, it's been great having you on. You've got a great sense of humour because you're British.
Of course.
Living in France.
Living in France, yeah.
My
You've got
goodness,
that, being a Brit living in France, you've got to have a great sense of humour. Yeah. These British, fuck 'em. Yeah. Anyway, that was my Peterborough accent. Anyway, that wouldn't be.
Thank you. Shut up now.
I got that, Tim. I got it.
Thank you, Raz. You're awesome, and we need to have another lunch, I believe.
We do. Let's debrief this traumatizing experience.
I think we need a therapy.
Can't say debrief. That's got like a
corporate undertones. He works in the corporate world.
It's not corporate to me. It's 14-year-old schoolboy to me to debrief somebody. Yeah.
I think we need a therapy after
should
that.
Should know by now. Therapy.
We need a therapy after that.
I need a terrapin.
We all need.
I need a terrapin, one of those small tortoise type things.
Anyway. Okay, guys, let's finish on this note. Brilliant.
Absolutely. That's way before I finished my career.